What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hockey Sense. Great to have you with us. As always, it's our Friday tradition. Fun show for you here today. Kenny Hitchcock will join us. You ever call him Kenny Hitchcock or just Ken Hitchcock? Ken Hitchcock will join us. Should be fun. The Blues have won 11 in a row, in case you didn't know. The big victory last night, 5-4, the final over the Pittsburgh Penguins in overtime. Pittsburgh comes back to tie it up late. We've seen that movie before. I just feel like it happens a lot this season where teams are either scoring late to win or they're scoring late to force overtime. Nonetheless, the Blues get the 2 points. Calgary wins again last night. The Blues are comfortably in a playoff spot right now. I mean, barring a drastic collapse, there's almost zero chance that the Blues don't make the playoffs. I think the probability percentages show over 90% probability for the Blues to make the playoffs, which is obviously almost a guarantee. Now it comes down to who do you want to play? You know, I threw this out there on Twitter yesterday. Do you prefer to be in the Pacific bracket or the Central bracket? And if you finish with the first wild card in that spot ahead of Minnesota, then you're going to be in the Pacific bracket, just based on the way the point totals will fall and all of that. So Winnipeg, listen, they got the best record in the West. So they will play the second wild card team. That's how it works. So if you're the first wild card team, you're going to play the first place team from the other side in the Pacific. Right now it's Vegas. LA is just coming, breathing down their neck. You just don't know how this is going to finish. I mean, even in the Central, Winnipeg has to keep winning with the way that the Dallas Stars are playing. You know, Dallas has won like 7 in a row. They've got points in 10 consecutive games. I mean, St. Louis isn't the only team that's on a streak right now. Dallas, to me, is the most dangerous team in the Western Conference. I feel like if you were to pick it right now, that would be my pick to get to the Stanley Cup final. I feel like Dallas has been knocking at the door for how long, and they just haven't been able to break through. I feel like this is going to be the year that they do it, but we'll have to wait and see. St. Louis, listen, you have to consider St. Louis a contender. I'm not saying a favorite by any means, and you can say any team that gets into the playoffs has a chance. So just, by that theory, anybody should be considered a contender. But I'm saying based on the way the Blues are playing right now, I don't think you'd be surprised if they beat anybody in the Western Conference. But could you imagine if the Blues play the LA Kings in the first round? If LA can catch Vegas, I think the Kings are 3 points behind Vegas right now. I would say that's probably unlikely. You would think that Vegas would be able to get it together. But I put this out there yesterday about, which bracket you'd rather play out of because, Dallas and Colorado being in that second and third position in the Central. If you were to beat Winnipeg in the first round, if you were to fall into the wild card 2 spot and play Winnipeg in the first round and beat the Jets, and then you'd have to play the winner of that Dallas-Colorado series. I just think if you play out of the Pacific bracket, then you can avoid Colorado or Dallas, which to me are the two most dangerous teams probably in the West. Although Winnipeg, man, I don't think I'm giving them enough credit, only because of their failures in the past in the playoffs and the unpredictability of their goaltender in the playoffs. Connor Hellebuyck, he's looking at another Vezina trophy this season. He's the best regular season goalie going right now. Now he's got to put that playoff stamp on his resume that he can get it done in the playoffs. And I think that's what everybody's waiting to see from Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, he is a great goaltender, but truly by the definition of great, especially when it comes to goaltending, you've got to find a way to get it done in the playoffs. So that's the next step for him. And, he had a chance in the Four Nations to make a case, lost to Binnington in Canada in the Four Nations championship game. Not going to sit here and say it was his fault, but he didn't win the game that mattered the most. So again, that would have been an opportunity for Connor Hellebuyck to kind of put a stake in the ground and say, listen, I am a champion. I can play my best hockey when it matters the most, when the stakes are at its highest. You're kind of waiting for him to do that. I think most people would feel more comfortable with Jordan Binnington as their goaltender versus Connor Hellebuyck in a playoff series. Most people who truly watch Binnington play, if you don't watch Binnington or you really don't watch the NHL and you're going just based on, reputation, then you may feel otherwise and maybe you would go with Hellebuyck. But for me, I watch Binnington a lot, man. I know how this guy can lock it down. I would not look at him as an underdog by any means going into a playoff series against Connor Hellebuyck. And I do think he's in Hellebuck's head a little bit. I've said that several times, going back to 2019 when they played each other in a playoff series. Binnington obviously won that series. He was great in that series. And, then, of course, what took place in the Four Nations. But we don't know how it's all going to shake out. I mean, the Blues could very easily finish in the wild card 2 spot and play Dallas. I mean, I'd want to avoid that. I just would not want to play the Dallas Stars. Certainly not in the first round. But the Blues last night, they win again. The biggest concern and the biggest news story today is Dylan Holloway. How's he doing? He left the rink. You could tell he was in some discomfort. You just look at the hit from McGroarty, who hit him in the corner. He kind of gave him the old Matthew Tkachuk body check, where they check with your ass. You go ass first into the body, and that can kind of tangle you up a little bit, buckle you. So I don't know if he got it in the ribs. I don't know if it's his knee. I don't know if it's the ankle, whatever it is. You just hope that he's able to recover quickly and get back. So I don't think the Blues are going to mess around. If he's not 100% or if he needs some rest, they're certainly going to give that to him. So he may not be available. Certainly, I would say he's doubtful for the game tomorrow in Colorado, although we'll get some official news on that later on today when the team is at the rink. So I don't want to, not making that official, but I would say based on the fact that he only played 5 minutes yesterday, did not look great in terms of the optics. I would say that he's probably unlikely to play Saturday against the Colorado Avalanche. And then we'll see what happens on the road trip. Do you take him on the road with you? Do you really mess around with that? This guy is so important to the Blues in terms of their success and just the pace that they play with. I mean, he makes them look quicker. He's got great chemistry with Kyrou. You want to see that connection remain intact. So you need Dylan Holloway. We all know that. Here's a question for you, though, when Colton Parayko comes back. And I will say this about Parayko. I think he's been cleared to return. And now it's a matter of when he feels like he's ready to play. I was talking to him the other day. He wasn't fully confident quite yet. So I guess there's a chance he could play against Colorado. Again, we'll get that official update later on today. So we don't have that at the time we're recording this show. But I would think sometime on the road trip would be more likely. I think he's going to want to get, at least 2 games in before the playoffs. Who are you taking out? Who's coming out of the lineup on the back end? I think a lot of people would automatically say Tyler Tucker, because he's the least experienced of all of them in terms of being with the team all season, truly having a top 6 spot locked down. Now, if you go through the rest of the group, we all know Broberg's not coming out. We know Falk's not coming out. We know Fowler's not coming out. You look at the Blues record with Nick Leddy, who's played over 1,000 games. They're 19-5-2 with him in the lineup this season. Played a lot of games, played a lot of playoff games. He is not coming out of the lineup, in my opinion. I certainly wouldn't take him out. You just signed Tyler Tucker to a contract extension. You know he's going to be here. Do you sit him out in favor of the 40-year-old who you know is not going to be here? You're playing Tucker on his offside right now. Getting Parayko back would maybe allow him to shift back to play on his natural left side. So for me, it's between Tucker and Suter. And some people I've talked to fully believe that they would lean towards Suter coming out of the lineup. Now, that may come as a major surprise for a lot of people. I don't know how he would take that news. You can't worry about that. Everyone's got to be a good teammate this time of year. And the chances of the Blues not using everybody is probably unlikely anyway. So everyone's got to remain ready. I was talking to Alexander Texier about that yesterday. He knows his name is going to get called again. He's got a really, really good attitude in terms of how he handles coming into the lineup, not playing. And, you've got Jimmy Snuggerud now getting his first career NHL point yesterday. Maybe the Holloway injury creates an opportunity for him to stay in the lineup now on Saturday against Nathan MacKinnon. But I would think maybe Texier can get back in now when you consider who's coming out. With Holloway coming out. I think you need that speed. I think Matthew Joseph brings the speed. Texier can bring a little more playmaking and offensive skill set in terms of what he brings to the table offensively. Puck play, all of that. So I would say maybe Texier draws back in with Holloway being out. Could be Joseph. We'll see. Maybe Snuggerud comes out. We'll have to wait and see what that lineup looks like. But it was good to see Snuggerud get his first point. Beautiful pass to Jake Neighbors. Neighbors goes over 20 goals for the season. Thomas gets 20 goals. Thomas is over 70 points for the third time in his career. He's gotten to 50 assists for the third time in his career. You know, he's the third player in Blues history, along with Bernie Federko and Adam Oates, to get to 50 assists at least 3 times in a career. So that's a nice little number for him to hit when you consider the number of games that he missed. So I don't think he'll get to 80 points. I want to see these guys break through, though, one of these years. I mean, to me, Robbie Thomas, and to a lesser extent, Jordan Kyrou, these guys should be at 80 points minimum every year. Get to 90 points. You know, maybe career it at 90, get to 100 points one of these years. I'm waiting to see them truly just stay hot throughout the course of the season and not have those ups and downs. Obviously, health is super important. But Kyrou gets another goal last night. He's up to 33. His career high is 37. Not sure he can get there with the remaining games that are left. 5 games left. And how important are these games going to be down the stretch? Do they choose to rest players? Is there a chance that we don't see Kyrou play the last game of the season? Maybe Schenn doesn't play the last game of the season. Do these guys stay in there? I would imagine they're going to want to play. I'll ask Ken Hitchcock, who's coming up, how he would handle that and how he traditionally would look at it and who he would take out defensively. It's a big question. Do you take out Tucker? Do you want him to get the playoff experience, or can you not worry about that when you consider the Blues are a contender and you just need to put your top 6 in there? I think you've got to put your top 6, but could you argue that Tyler Tucker is one of your top 6 defensemen right now? You could make that argument. I just love the physicality. Sometimes these decisions are matchup based. Are you playing a team that brings speed, that's dangerous off the rush? Are you playing a heavy team that brings more physicality, that is more of a forechecking team? Sometimes style of play can come into play in terms of making decisions. Speaking of Snuggerud, it was great to see him sign and get in. His dad, Dave's an amazing guy. Had a fun time interviewing him in the Snuggerud's first game a couple of days ago. During the game, met the mom. His agents were in town for his first game. So he's got a lot of family here. He's living with Braden Schenn, which, you know, Braden Schenn, his reputation as a captain here in St. Louis is just getting better and better and better. I thought last year it was just a real learning experience for him to be the captain. It's not always easy. We said this about Ryan O'Reilly as well. Alex Pietrangelo. I think your first year as a captain is an adjustment. You know, but for Snuggerud, living now with Braden Schenn, I think is a great opportunity for him. You know, he'll be well taken care of. They're going to feed him, all that type of stuff. And Jake Neighbors has been through this before. I just like it when guys step up and have this open door policy. So anyway, so he's at Schenn's house the other day, and Sidney Crosby comes over for dinner. Now, could you imagine being at the University of Minnesota just a few days ago, and then fast forward a few days later, you're in the NHL, you're playing against Patrick Kane, then you're playing against Crosby, Letang, Erik Karlsson, all these legendary players that are on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Evgeny Malkin didn't play. And then now you have Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar coming here on Saturday, you know? But you're having dinner with Sidney Crosby. Schenn and Crosby have been good friends for quite some time. So Crosby, Kevin Hayes, and Noel Acciari, they all came over to Schenn's house for dinner. So Snuggerud had dinner with Sidney Crosby. So how cool is that? I like seeing that. The Frozen Four is coming here to St. Louis. Get those tickets April 10th and 12th. Good to see so many alumni at the game last night who were in town for the Kelly Chase event that takes place tonight at Centene. Hopefully we see a number of you out there. Don't be hesitant to come over and say hello, man. I always want to hear some feedback from those of you who are listening to Hockey Sense. We've got a lot of people, obviously, who are learning that we've taken Hockey Sense, which was on the radio for over 20 years here in St. Louis, that now we are on the podcast platform. always a chance we return back to radio. But I like the podcast platform. We're treated great here at Half Coast Studios. Aiden does a great job. Alex, Maddie, everybody. This is where we do the Cam and Strick podcast. It's just easy. And I like having this YouTube platform too, where people can kind of watch the guest and watch the show. So tell your friends that we are now on a podcast platform. I had Scotty Young on the broadcast yesterday or last night. I know it's third period. Some people chirping me on Twitter. I hear you. I see it. I know it's not always the best timing, third period, but you know what? We wanted to pump up the event and show Kelly Chase some much love, man. And I know his former teammates do. That's why they're here in town to support this guy. So it was important we did that, and we just didn't get to it till the third period. Blues didn't have a very good first period yesterday. I think they had, 3 or 4 shots on goal. You know, I don't want to be negative because there's so much positivity right now with the Blues. The fact that they're doing this without Colton Parayko, and they tied a franchise record for the most consecutive wins. Most wins in a row at home, by the way, with 10. So I don't want to be negative, but they're not playing, you know, they've kind of gotten away from playing the way they want to play the last couple of games. The good news is they still find ways to win, but it has not been their best homestand stylistically in terms of how they want to play. And they're going to want to get that together against Colorado. Otherwise, the streak could very easily end against the Colorado Avalanche. But eventually it's going to. It is what it is. They've done exactly what they needed to do. Everyone knew that they had to go on a run. Remember the storyline for much of the season was the fact that the Blues could not win more than 2 games in a row. They couldn't get over that hump. They'd win 2 in a row. They could never get that third victory. And now they've done it, winning 11 in a row. And we said over and over and over again that, hey, the Blues are going to have to go on a run if they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to have to win 8, 9, 10 games in a row for this to happen. And they've done it. It really is incredible. We've seen incredible runs from this organization in the past. To go back to Andy Murray's team with the record that they had with Chris Mason playing in goal. And, I mean, they were completely dead in the water, and they just had an unreal stretch. Remember Mason played like every game down the stretch? They ended up finishing, I think, 6th in the conference. They played Vancouver and got swept. But it was still a great learning experience. They got into the playoffs, and the Blues hadn't been in the playoffs for a few years prior to that. And then, obviously, 2019. They did finish with the 3 seed in 2019, playing against Winnipeg in the first round. We'll see where they end up now, man. I don't know where this thing is going. The standings are just crazy. Well, I do want to give a shout out to Alexander Ovechkin, though. They played tonight against Chicago. He could get a hat trick against the Blackhawks. I think he got a hat trick against Chicago last year. It would be the most Ovi thing to do to just break the record with a hattie on a Friday night at home in front of his fans. I think that would be cool. He's going to do it. They've got 7 games left. He needs 2 to tie. And that second goal was important, too. Everyone focuses on the third record-breaking goal, but that Gretzky tying goal is going to be just as incredible to witness. So maybe he does it tonight. We'll see how that plays out. Crosby, by the way, I mean, a point-per-game player now for each of his 20 seasons in the NHL. He breaks Wayne Gretzky's record of 19. So Ovi's not the only one breaking Gretzky's record. That's just incredible. You know, only 12 players in the history of the league, or 19 players, I should say, have had point streaks of at least 10 games at the age of 37 or older. And now he's at 11. There's only a handful of guys who have done it 11. And I think 3 players maybe who have done it 12 games in a row at 37 years of age or older. So what this guy's doing, got another point last night. Crosby extends his point streak to 11 games. It's incredible what he does, man. But a point per game for 20 consecutive seasons. It's unreal. Now, some of those years he didn't play a complete season. He had lockout-shortened years. He had injury issues early in his career with the concussions and whatnot where he missed a number of games. But he still finished with more than a point per game. And if he would have played 82 games those seasons, he would have finished with more than 82 points. So, big shout-out to Sidney Crosby. Always great to see him back here in St. Louis. All right, we've got Ken Hitchcock coming up. So much to get into with Hitch. I'm looking forward to this conversation, man, as I am each and every week with all our guests. We always have great guests here on Hockey Sense. A little bit different than some of the guests we get on the Cam and Strick podcast. Some of those guys that we get on Cam and Strick will also get here on Hockey Sense. Just love talking pucks. And again, looking forward to the Frozen Four. I kind of mentioned that, but with BU, University of Denver, Western Michigan, and Penn State making their first ever Frozen Four appearance. I think Western Michigan, I don't know, have they been in the Frozen Four before? I guess they probably have. They've been around for a long time. We can ask Jamal Mayers. There's a chance we have Jamal here on the show. I'm not exactly sure if we're going to have him or not. He's traveling today, so I'm not so sure we can make that happen. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week. You know that. You know, when I think about retirement, I think about something people do when they're much older than me, but listen, here's the thing. It's never too early to start saving. You know that. And I'm talking saving for retirement. But with an IRA, you can potentially put tax-deferred savings away for your retirement and then lock in some great rates, which is important to do. You can also open up a what they call a health savings account. You can build a cushion for unexpected or routine medical expenses. I mean, that's the absolute worst when you get those medical expenses, especially when you're not expecting it. So First Community offers IRA, HSA accounts. There's no costs for any of these accounts, and there are some eligibility requirements, but now's a great time to learn more about it. So check it out at firstcommunity.com. But yeah, start stashing some money away for those unexpected health issues. You never know when those are going to come up. First Community, they've got so many options, man. I love it. Blue Note Roofing. David Novak's going to join me in studio next week. Looking forward to seeing David. 314-920-5713. He's got to be busy right now, man. We had storms again. Yesterday, we're expecting more rain over the course of this weekend. Of course, we had the tornadic weather just a few weeks ago. If you have any issues with your house, hail damage, roof damage, siding damage, give him a call. 314-920-5713. Drives that big yellow truck with the blue notes on it. Blue Note Roofing, David Novak. One of our proud sponsors here on Hockey Sense. Soffit, fascia, gutters, they do it all. Siding, roofing. He's the absolute best. Huge hockey fan, man. I saw him at the game last night. Always good to run into David. And he'll talk pucks with you, man. This guy's the best. He's a beauty, as we say. David Novak, 314-920-5713. I can always connect you guys personally. If you need it, man, just let me know. Reach out to me. Four Hands Brewing Company, voted St. Louis's #1 brewing company. Get that Cam and Strick mango, lemonade, hard seltzer wherever you get your Four Hands Brewing Company products. Check out their tasting rooms, downtown St. Louis, Kirkwood, Chesterfield. Spend your weekend at a Four Hands Brewing Company location. Lordo's Diamonds, they've been around for 70 years, man. You know, if you're around for 70 years, you're doing something well or something right. And they do it. Jimmy, Mike Lordo, they're the absolute best. Pat, get that special someone in your life, something special. Over at Lordo's Diamonds, right there in the heart of Ladue. You can't miss it. 314-432-8008. 314-432-8008. Located right next to Truffles. I've had many a late night at Truffles, man. Love Truffles. Sometimes we'll just stop there. You just say, well, stop for one at Truffles. Always have a good time. You can go to Truffles. You can go to Lordo's Diamonds right there in the heart of Ladue. Mike and Jimmy Lordo, thanks for all your support that you give us here on Hockey Sense. All right, let's take a break. Ken Hitchcock, legendary Hall of Fame coach. Going to get his take on a number of different things. Looking forward to that. He joins me next. It's Hitch. I'm Andy Strickland. This is Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's bring in Hitch. Where's your hockey hoodie?
Well, it's golf season, so this is one of the golf holes here at Stadium Golf Course. I live right across the fairway from it, so I'm honoring the golf course today.
It's disappointing you don't have your hockey hoodie on. You have a different hoodie. By the way, just so the people know, you wouldn't do the interview unless I put the Canada jersey behind me and got rid of the USA jersey. So I just had to let the people know, because the first segment we had USA behind me, you know?
Loyalty is loyalty, you know?
How many international tournaments were you involved in? And what was your favorite one? Like, what's your most memorable international tournament you were a part of?
You know what, Andy? It was the 1988 World Junior in Moscow. People probably don't remember this, but in '87, both the Russians and the Canadians were placed last, because of a brawl in the Czech Republic. And
Oh,
so we ended up playing each other in the final game in 1988 in Moscow, and it was really tense, between the military was all over us and everything. And like it was unbelievable, the tenacity of the game and then the tenseness of the situation. But I would say that one, and then the 2010 Olympics was pretty special too. That was in our home country. That was pretty special.
yeah, I was talking to Pronger about that last night because Crosby was in the building last night too. Of course, he scored the golden goal. 88, who was on that team?
Adam Graves, Rob Brown, Greg Hoggood, Joe Sakic, Sheldon Kennedy, Theo Fleury, Eric Desjardins. The goalie was incredible. His name was Jimmy Waite. Was in Chicago for a long time, but it was a great group of athletes, and the Russians had a great team too. They had Bure, they had Fedorov, they had McGillney. They had a lot of great players also.
Yeah, Jimmy Waite. I had to tell my teacher one time in like third grade. I did a paper on goaltenders, and I spelled it Waite, and she marked it wrong. She said Waite, and I said no, there's an E on there. That's how you spell his last name.
You're right. That is how you spell his last name.
That's right.
You're right.
That's right. The Blues have won 11 in a row, Hitch. This is I don't know how you look at it as a coach. I mean, the last couple of games, yeah, it wasn't their best game, but they still find a way to win. They're working in young players who are playing their first games. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick it apart right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you don't want to pick it apart. You don't want to get nitpicky about whether it's a clean game or not. I think what they have going right now is a tremendous spirit. There's a real partnership, Andy, between the players and the coaches, which is great to see. And you don't want to lose that. So, there's like, I know as a coach, and I know Monty feels the same way, giving up goals in the last minute of play drive you nuts. But there's a spirit that they come back and win those games. And you don't want to take away from the spirit that the players have. And there's a real partnership going on the ice, off the ice. We always hear the term play for each other. Well, this is truly what's happening in St. Louis. This is a group of athletes that are really playing for each other, making sacrifices for each other. And you don't want to, as a coach, you want to kind of stay out of the way and get out of the way so that these guys can build each other's camaraderie even deeper.
All right, so when you took over the Blues mid-season, it was different than Monty because Monty was coaching in the same year. You were working with Columbus. You were going to games and still involved with the Columbus organization at the time. But for Monty, he goes from being on the bench with Boston to then being on the bench with St. Louis in a matter of days. I mean, I can only imagine what a whirlwind that is for a head coach. What do you think the Four Nations break did for him in terms of his ability to truly evaluate what he has here?
I think it was the practices after the Four Nation.
Yeah.
Those practices were game-like. They were intense. He went and into a lot of small ice games, which brought the competitive spirit back. And I think the players locked on. And there's also a time in players' careers or in the career of a team where you just get tired of losing. And then you either go straight down into the ditch and stay there, or you come hauling back. And they came hauling back. They got tired of losing. They bought in, they started to win because of that. And then they bought in even deeper every day. And so I think a lot of it had to do with the professionalism and the demands that Monty and his staff made right after the break.
Yeah, it was almost like a mini training camp. Those two practices, and they went hard. I mean, they would practice, they would Zamboni the ice, they'd go to the other rink. I mean, it was almost like what you would see in training camp. And I remember talking to Monty around that time. He wanted to work on the forecheck. He wanted to work on the penalty kill. I mean, two areas that have really improved. They just look quicker. Putting Holloway with Kyrou, you hope Holloway's not going to be hurt long term. He got hurt last night. But I just feel like that's really given them two offensive lines that are now going at the same time, but they just look like they're playing faster. Hitch, you agree?
There's there's a lot less hesitation in their game. They're able to, everybody's buying in on getting the puck deep. Even skilled players are willing to dump it in and hunt it back. Those are great qualities. You know, they're not playing the right way is like punishment. They're really inviting playing the right way, and it looks good. And that's why they look fast, is they look connected, because they are on the same page and they value getting pucks behind the defense. They value putting pucks on goal. They value the end boards game, and everybody's bought into that. You're right on Holloway. If Dylan's hurt, that's a big hit, but they've got other people that are, they've got people who normally don't play this way that have bought into playing this way because they want to win hockey games.
Yeah, even a guy like the two guys that sat out last night were playing their best hockey as a Blue the few games before that in Matthew Joseph and Alexander Texier. I mean, they were playing their best hockey of the season too. So you have some options of some guys who you can bring in, and both those guys bring some speed. Texier brings a little bit of a different game, obviously, than Joseph. But I want to ask you about the fourth line because, in 2019, the Blues had a fourth line that contributed. That was a big part of their success. They started periods. They kind of set the tone for the team with their physicality. Radek Faksa, and I remember talking to you about him when the Blues acquired him. And right off the bat, you talked about how big of a man he is and just his size that he brings to the table. He's an unbelievable guy. And I think people underestimated how he can impact the team and how he can contribute, and the skill set that he brings to the table with his size and his intelligence. But with him, Toropchenko, and Nathan Walker, what is that giving the team right now in terms of their play?
Well, when Radek and I were together in Dallas, Radek was our third line center, not our fourth line center. And he was really good. We even used him net front on the power play. He killed penalties. He played 5-on-5 against the other team's best players, and he played net front on the power play. So he was a valuable guy on the team. And when there was close games, he was playing 18 to 19 minutes a night. So I don't consider them to be a fourth line. I consider them to be a checking line.
Yeah.
They set the tone. They establish the identity of the game right away. And to me, they're more of a checking line rather than a fourth line. I think that's what gives the Blues so much strength, is that they can play anybody against anybody and feel comfortable. Their players play the right way, and you've got a line that Cox's line can play 12 minutes a night or 18 minutes a night, and they still set the proper tone that you can follow.
Yeah, and there may be some games where, come playoff time, where they play more than the Sundqvist line, and maybe they're used in a little bit of a different matchup. I remember that in 2019 because the third line was Bozak, Robert Thomas, and Pat Maroon, and the Steen, Barbashev, Sundqvist line at that time, who was considered the fourth line, would play more in a lot of games, than what you would consider your third line on paper when people are putting the lines down when the game starts. So I guess everything is kind of matchup related in terms of who you're facing. Hitch, I look at the, what they're doing without Colton Parayko right now, and they're going to get him back. It's only a matter of time before they do. So he'll play some games before the playoffs. Who do you take out? That is the way they're playing right now. Somebody's going to have to come out, Hitch. How do you make that decision?
Well, and I don't think it's who you take out, because you're comfortable with anybody in there. It's who do you give a rest to? When you're an older player, and they've got some older players on the back end, sometimes those guys need a break. Now, they're not going to be happy about it. Nobody is. But sometimes a game off or 2 games off doesn't hurt them at all at this time of year, because it's been a really long year. And I would say you got a rotation of 2 or 3 defensemen that you can get in there. But getting Parayko back in the lineup and getting him up to speed is really important, because he's going to be the matchup guy. He's going to be the guy that plays against the other team's best players. And you got to get him ice time, and you got to get him acclimated to what's going on. and you've got lots of options to give guys a rest or a game off or whatever. Um, so I think, whether it's Letty or Suter or Volk or anybody, you can give them a break and then they'll be fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah, Tucker obviously is a guy
Yeah.
who, maybe comes in and out. What do you think of Tucker's play?
I love what he brings to the team. I know it's not clean every game, but I love what he brings to the team. He brings an attitude to the team that's really necessary, especially if you're going to win in playoffs. He gets the other team's attention. He responds to contact really well, and he's nasty. And I think he has over the course of a playoff series, those type of players have major impact in the game.
As a coach, when you hear about players being rumored in trades and you're better with that player on your team, I mean, are you kind of hoping in the behind the scenes that the player doesn't waive his no trade and they don't leave and you still have them for the stretch run? Because it's essentially what happened with Braden Shen.
Well, I always looked at it this way. The reason your name's up for trade is because you're not playing to your potential. And I think when all the stories were around, like, who is Doug going to trade this guy or is he going to trade that guy? It looks like to me from afar that was an unbelievable wake up call for guys, because immediately after all those discussions were over and the team opted to stay central where they were, then those players took off.
You're right.
So they got the message. But one thing I've learned over time is you don't get out on the trade rumor mill unless your contract's not going to be extended, or number two, you're not playing very well and you need to pick it up. And whatever happened, and when it settled down, those guys that were rumored that were up for grabs, everybody's game changed and everybody went to another level.
Hitch, Jordan Kyrou, minus 50 combined the last two seasons. He's plus 23 right now. As a coach, are you proud of the way that he's really made a concerted effort to improve his overall game?
I don't think his overall game's improved. I think he is what he is, but what's improved is the strength of his game, speed, quickness, shot. He's really dialed in on what he does well, and that's what's given him this big plus minus record right now. I think he's really playing to his strengths. When he plays to his strengths, he's a very effective player. So a player's weaknesses, Andy, they take time to change. It's over years or certainly months before you get that player to change. But what a player's strengths are, you got to dial in right away. And what he's done this year is really dialed in on his strengths. And even when he's been not great defensively, he's more than adequate offensively. And that's what's given him the record he's got right now.
Yeah, you're just not seeing the glaring mistakes that kind of haunted him for several years at the wrong time, wrong areas of the ice, not understanding the time and the score, just live to play another down, as they say. So that's a maturity issue sometimes, right? As a player.
Yeah, what he's done is he's bought into what's called territorial hockey. So where to put the puck, where to get it back, how to play it in safe areas. He's learned to do that stuff. But you know what? It's taken years, Andy. It's taken 3 or 4 years for him to be able to do that. But he never lost sight. When you're scoring 30 goals every year, he never lost sight of what his strengths were. But now the maturity and the time frame of improving in puck management has really changed. He's a lot smarter player on how to manage the game and manage the puck now.
Is Robert Thomas, is he wearing this jersey in the Olympics next time we get there?
It looks like that to me. Like his sense of timing. He's playing against the other team's best players. You're not running him off the ice now against the other team's best players. He's going head up. He looks like a guy that it's fun to watch. He looks like a guy that's getting better daily, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's playing incredible hockey right now. Before we move on, Jimmy Snuggerud, played his second game yesterday and got his first point. how do you handle that as a coach, working a player like that in? Do you continue to play him? I mean, Dvorsky got one game. He's back down in the minors right now. Explain maybe the difference in the thought process between the two. And I will say, so people who know, Snuggerud, for example, he's not even eligible to play in the American League playoffs, so that's not even an option for the organization. But I'm just curious how you differentiate the two in terms of the opportunity they're getting right now.
Well, first on Dvorsky, there's a real faith that in the four centers that Monty has going right now. So he didn't want to get pulling guys out of the lineup that were playing well. And Dvorsky's going to be a good player. He's going to be a good St. Louis Blue, but he's got four guys there. Snuggerud, there was an opening for Snuggerud and that type of player. What I like about Snuggerud is he does everything with tempo, everything with speed. He gets the shot off quick. He attacks the net quickly. He's got outside speed, which really helps. And he's conscientious defensively. So he's a guy that you can insert there. He's still small and just coming out of college. So he's going to take some time to build up his body. But he's a really smart player and can do things at top speed. So it's not a big risk to put him in the ice because he does make great plays off the rush. He's got a quick release on the shot. So he's a really valuable guy in that way. And Dvorsky, unfortunately, is in a situation where the four centers, Monty likes all four guys. So he's got to go back and play in the American League. But I can tell you, if there's one bump in the center ice position, he can be right back up.
Yeah, no doubt. Snuggerud skating, no issue there. And he can get up to a top speed. He can play with some pace, but I've heard some people say like he's going to have to improve his skating. I'm just curious your opinion on that.
No, I don't. That's going to improve with just playing games and practicing at that tempo. His stride and his balance is fine. He's going to be a really good pro, I think.
Yeah, and he's going to break through too. I mean, he had a great chance. It's going down his the left side as a right hand shot yesterday. Got the shot off quickly, and Jari was able to make the save. But he can really shoot the puck. Bolduc, you've always been high up. I remember you telling me how well this kid shoots the puck before he was scoring in the NHL. And, back-to-back seasons in the Quebec League where he scored over 100 goals playing for Patrick Roy. You always knew that he had that in him. That was his reputation. And he had no goals on the season when Monty took over. He's got all 16 of his goals since Monty got here. But he and Thomas had developed great chemistry on the power play with that little 5-foot little sauce pass, and he gets it off quick, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's really good that way. The thing I really noticed, and that's why I thought in time he's going to be a really good player, because I watched him play in junior all the time. For me, he was, when he came up to the NHL, he stood around too much. He stood and tried to slot into a position. Now he's got movement in his game. He attacks the net. He drives the net off the half wall. He really uses his speed through middle drive. So now he's added tempo to his game, and that's what's given him a chance to get all these scoring chances. So I like the way he's playing now, and he's got I don't want to say in a negative way, but he's got the junior hockey out of his system. Mm-hmm. Now he's playing like an NHL player, and with that shot, that release, that quickness, he's going to be effective for a long time.
Is there a different adjustment going from junior to the NHL versus college to the NHL?
Yeah. Yes.
What is it?
In college hockey, the game is fast and furious, and in junior hockey, the older players are so much more mature in their game. They can extend their shifts well beyond comfort level, but it's not a problem in junior. Whereas at the tempo at a college game is really high. They get they practice 4 or 5 times before they play, so they're just wired, and then they're like shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And the tempo is really fast and really high. And because there's age discrepancy in junior, you got 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Difference. So the 20-year-olds or the 19-year-olds can play at a controlled tempo and control the game more than they can in college.
Yeah, and in reality, in college, we focus on these, elite players that are coming to the NHL, but, you pretty much have 23-year-olds playing against each other. I mean, you got 24 and 25-year-olds sometimes in college with the COVID rules. So it's really a 20 and above league versus junior being a 20 and under league, you know?
Yes. Yeah. There's as many players at 17 and 18 than there are at 19 and 20.
Yeah. Um, is Dallas the most dangerous team in the West?
I think Colorado is, if healthy, I think Colorado is really deep, really quick. They've got great depth. Uh, I think the only thing that holds Dallas back, in my opinion, is injuries. I don't know when Heiskanen. There's a lot of talk that he's going to miss the first round. That's a big hole when you're taking a 25-minute player out of your lineup. That's a really big hole in a tough series. But I think Colorado, to me, is playing the best of anybody right now.
Yeah.
I-
Dallas is on fire too. I think they've won 7 straight or something like that. But
Yeah, but you know what? For me, the goalie in Dallas cleans up a lot of mistakes, Andy,
okay.
and they were in complete control of the games when guys like Heiskanen were in the lineup. So to me, he's a big miss. Not having him in the lineup is a big miss.
Yeah. And there could be, I guess, some question marks with Colorado's goaltending, only because we haven't seen them excel in the playoffs or have that opportunity to excel in the playoffs. But Blackwood's a good goaltender.
No, I agree. Like I say, they got within the addition of those 2 centers, they've got great tempo in their game. They got great depth in their game.
In the Pacific, Edmonton, with the McDavid injury, like how concerned would you be? Are they as dangerous going into the playoffs this year as maybe you looked at them last year?
Well, they've been nicked up all year. It's not just McDavid. Draisaitl got hurt last night.
Mm-hmm.
Ekholm's been out for a little extended period of time. They don't know if Kane's going to be back. To me, they're the mystery team because if you gave them a lineup and if everybody was healthy, their team is extremely deep, really deep. But you don't know where they're at injury wise, and you don't know how banged up they're going to be coming into the playoffs. And that's the other problem that's going on right now. The teams that are comfortably in there, you don't want to see injuries pop up with these teams. Like last night with us with Holloway, it makes you nervous because you worked all year to get there, and then you pick up significant injuries. And you want to see teams healthy, given that right opportunity. And Edmonton's being banged up all year.
Yeah. Vegas, legit contender, right?
Yeah, but missing Hurdle right now. Like no Hurdle, he's a big horse, and it's somebody to back up Eichel.
Yeah.
It's always a second line that comes in that you take a breath from Eichel, and then you got Hurdle's line coming. So again, where are they health wise when the season starts for real here in a couple weeks?
I know, and Hurdle was starting to play like the Hurdle of old, really. I mean, he was dominating here at his size. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas catches Winnipeg. We don't talk about Winnipeg enough. Is it because they just haven't done it in the playoffs and you just seen them be good in the regular season year in and year out, and you're just kind of waiting for them to break through in the playoffs to get that respect? Like, how good are they?
Well, I think everybody thinks that they're beatable because they haven't done it before. But if they get through the first round, they're going to be hard to match because their confidence is going to be through the roof. So to me, if you're going to beat a team like Winnipeg, you're going to have to beat them in the first round. But if they get momentum and they get a belief system in the playoffs like they have right now in the regular season, like Scott Arnell's done a great job with those guys. But if they get a belief system after winning the first round, they are going to be really hard to beat in the playoffs because their confidence is going to grow like crazy.
That's the hardest round to win?
Yes, everybody's jacked up. Everybody's as fresh as they could be. And, if you go in healthy and you win the first round, it just seems to grow, especially with teams that are trying to win for the first time. That's really what Winnipeg's trying to do. They're trying to get to be a dominant team for the first time. They've got all the tools, and now they've got to win around early in the playoffs.
All right, a few more things for you, and then I'll let you go. I want to go back to the Blues real quick. Cam Fowler, because I want to ask you about him. I mean, getting him for a second-round pick. I mean, as much as we talk about Broberg and Holloway, were steals, and they certainly were, especially when you consider their age. 22 and 23 is different than 33, where Holloway is, or where Fowler is, and he's got another year left on his deal. But this guy, Hitch, and you coached against him forever since he came into the league. He's meant everything to this back end, hasn't he? I mean, you talk about Parayko not being in the lineup. I mean, Fowler's just all of a sudden become the anchor back there, along with Falk.
He's the perfect defenseman for me. He's good enough with the puck to be controlling the game. He's great without the puck. He can play against the other team's top players. Like this guy looks like, quite frankly, he's 33. He looks like he can play forever.
Oh my God.
And he's so smart, and is just, if you're a coach and you want to show your players how to play defense with your proper stick positioning, just show video of Fowler. Like, his stick positioning is exceptional. His angling is terrific. He's a hell of a player.
Great player. Great guy, too. He's just fit in. Some guys just fit, and he is certainly fit in here. Hey, when's the first time you ever saw Alex Ovechkin? Was it in the NHL?
Yeah. It's funny. There's two players. Boy, talk about being dumb. That was me. Like, two players that I thought, when they first came into the league, I thought, these guys aren't very good. Like, they're not going to do very good. And he was one of them. And the other guy was Pavel Datsyuk. I thought, Jesus, Datsyuk is really small. He's fragile. And then a year later, he's dominating the damn league. And the same thing with Ovechkin. I said to myself, all he does is stand around, but he doesn't do anything. And then the next thing you know, he's scoring 50, 60 goals. And you understand how smart he was on the ice, how he go to those quiet spaces and control the game. And I had a really early misread on both those guys, to be honest with you.
How impressive is this record, in your opinion? Is this one of those you thought would never get broken?
I thought no way it was ever going to get broken. And I just thought nobody can be that consistent. Like, I was around when Gretz was pulling it off every year and year and year now, every season, 30, 40, 50 goals. And then I thought there's nobody going to come close to this. And then Ovi he's the most consistent goal scorer in the history of the game now. And
ever.
He's done at his age, still being relevant is really impressive.
I mean, he's only gotten to 60 one time in his career. I mean, he just scores 50 every year. It's really incredible. It's like, I always wonder, like, when people say, well, he's no longer in his prime. Okay, so I get it, like, Ovi's not in his prime. He's not scoring 60, but like, what is he? He's scored 40 goals in the National Hockey League. You know what I mean? So, okay, he's not in his prime, but I feel like he could do this for another couple of years if he wanted to.
Well, he's the master at knowing where to go on the ice. And the other side of it is, as an opposition coach, you know where he's going to go. You just can't stop him, because all he needs to get is a little bit of wood on the puck, and it's in the net. And I don't know, like, he's a like that was like Hully. Hully was the same way. Hully would just meander around the ice, find a quiet spot, boom, in the net. And that's, to me, Ovechkin, same thing.
The difference is Hully didn't have 3,000 hits. I mean, this guy runs around and crushes guys, especially when he first came in, his first 10 years in the league or so. He was so physical. He's still physical.
Yeah, but you know what Hully never got enough credit for? If you ever watch tape of him, watch his board play.
Yeah.
He's as good as any winger in the world for a long time on his board play. His board play was exceptional. He always got pucks out. He always got pucks in. He always won the board battles. Like, his upper body strength was just incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I love hearing that. But it's amazing. And Crosby last night, I mean, he's averaging a point per game or more for each of his 20 seasons, which is an insane stat to me. That is unbelievable to me.
How about the whack job him and Falk went at it? But that just shows you how competitive. Like, they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Crosby's competing like that at the end of the game. Like, that's impressive.
I think it was Suter. Suter has that gamesmanship, and Suter will slash you. He always jokes with me. He's like, I don't slash, but I see him get away with more stuff, Hitch. Did he always play like that? Or I guess at 40 years of age, the referees just kind of they let him get that extra shot in.
When he was in his prime, he was really a mean player, and he still got game. Like to be at that age and still have that type of game is really impressive, Andy.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, Out of the East, real quick, Washington, can they sustain this into the playoffs? Do you believe in Toronto? Is Florida too banged up? Tampa, like, how do you see the East shaking out?
I really believe in Toronto and Tampa. Now, I think there's going to be a collision course pretty early in the playoffs with them, but I really believe in those two teams right now.
So we'll revisit that. I'll have you back on during the playoffs for sure. You should be an analyst, Hitch.
I'm done.
You should be a TV analyst.
I'm not doing that stuff anymore. No, I'm
Are you-
trying to. I'm trying to stay off the air.
But tell people though, like you're watching games every night, right?
Yeah, I average 3 games a night. You know, you got to remember it's 4. It starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon out here.
Perfect for you.
So I'm watching. Oh, I will watch from basically 4 till 10.
Okay. And then you'll watch Springfield play though too, right? I mean
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
I watch Springfield play two times a week,
Okay.
and then I talk to the American League guys every Monday, and then Monty and I talk pretty much every non-game day.
Anybody stand out down there? They've had some, the Lucas Fisher now has gotten down there. There's been some other young prospects who have just joined the team recently. Jakob Stansel, I don't know if you had a chance to see any of those kids play.
I like Peterson.
Oh yeah, Dylan Peterson.
I like him a lot. Like I think there's 4 or 5 guys down there that are legit going to push for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum 4 guys going to push for work next year. I think
the Swedes too,
the training camp next year is going to be through the roof competitive for the Blues. I really think it's they've got significant depth. We have depth all over the organization. I think Army's and his staff have done a great job, and I think our depth is going to really shine now.
Yeah, and the expectations heading into next year, I mean, they've created that with the way they've played here over the course of the last several weeks, so it's going to be risen.
If we're healthy, we're going to be hard out.
Oh,
in this year, we're going to be really hard out. If we can remain healthy, we're going to be a tough out in a playoff series.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go away quietly.
Yeah, no, I said yesterday on NHL Network, I was talking, I said, hey, you got to view St. Louis as a contender. They may not be a favorite, but I don't think you'd be surprised if they beat anybody. So, and nobody wants to play them. I mean, the way that they're playing right now, especially when you have the goalie hitch. As a coach, when you have a goalie, I mean, that helps you sleep at night, doesn't it?
Well, it's not. Bennington is being terrific at it, but it's also a group of defensemen. Mm-hmm. They don't make big errors back there. There's a veteran group back there, and they don't make big errors. So as the playoff series moves along, you got to play games that are tied a lot. The games there's a 1-goal difference, and we're a team that we bend but we don't break on the back end, and we've got a great goalie. Like we're kind of if we stay healthy, we're kind of built for the playoffs. To be honest with you.
To your point, since the Four Nations, the Blues lead the league in fewest rush chances per game. They play with great structure. They don't give up a whole lot. I can't really think of any games over the course of this stretch where Bennington truly had to stand on his head and steal the game because of what you're talking about. They play so well defensively. So, we've seen him steal games in the past, and we all know he's certainly capable of doing that, but he hasn't really had to over the course of this little stretch,
Well, he will in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Your goalie's got to win games for you if you're going to win series when you're the underdog.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Hitch. I appreciate it. Enjoy. Are you playing golf today?
Hitting balls.
Okay. Enjoy the sunshine out there.
You take care, bud.
We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
That's the one and only Ken Hitchcock. Great conversation with him. Always brought to you by First Community. FirstCommunity.com. Go to First Community today and see what they have to offer because they've got a lot to offer with First Community. If you're in the market for a new home, even if you're just thinking about it, just listen to what I have to say here because I've got big news from First Community. You already know that they're one of the largest home lenders in the area. They have always had a wide range of home loan products, from first-time buyer loans to jumbo loans, but now there's something new for every borrower, and it's the Smart Choice Home Loan. That's right. This new mortgage product has a rate of 6.75%, which is incredible. That's for all qualified borrowers. Has a 30-year fixed rate term. And I did say fixed rate. Some people don't pick up on that. They're like, what? Did you really say fixed rate for 30 years? Yeah, I did. So you don't have to worry about adjusting your rate or it ending and all that type of stuff in a few years. All you need is a 10% down payment. So if you have that, no private mortgage insurance, no PMI, that's a big deal. No fees for the application, no fees for processing, no fees for underwriting, fixed rates. Listen, they're hard to find, and you have it now with this at First Community, 6.75. Check that out. Again, Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing, give them a call today. The one and only David Novak, 314-920-5713. Lordo's Diamonds, right there in the heart of Ladue. Jamal Mayer is unable to join us today, but he's always brought to you by the one and only Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. In, up, out, fixed the same day, as they say. I love going to Dobbs, man. Dustin Dobbs, everybody over there. They bring us Jamal Mayers each and every week here on Hockey Sense. They are so good, man, over there at Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You know, I always ask Jamal, what are you having for dinner tonight? You know, and he always tells me, Bartolino's, baby. They got 5 restaurants, Bartolino's South, Bartolino's Osteria, Chris's Pancake and Dining, and Chris at the Docket. And now they also have Bartolino's Twin Oaks. I've been out there, man. It's absolutely incredible. They've got many lasting relationships that they've created with customers. You know their motto, cook good food, serve plenty. For the Bartolino's family of restaurants. All right, we're going to get out of here. That's it for this edition of Hockey Sense. Ken Hitchcock joined us. The Blues have another home game tomorrow. Then they go on the road for 3. Then they finish the regular season at home against Utah. I always had that Utah game scheduled or circled. Didn't know if the season could come down to that final game because Utah was kind of in the mix before they recently fell off. But it's going to be a lot of fun, man. We'll have all your coverage here for the playoffs as well. You're going to want to continue to tune into Hockey Sense. We appreciate all the support. Tell all your friends, all your Blues fans, friends who are Blues fans, hockey fans. We'll have all your playoff coverage right here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. For Aiden, for Jamal Mayers, for Ken Hitchcock, for everybody with Half Coast Studios, I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. Have a great weekend, everybody.